All right, well, I want to welcome our champions back to my ongoing dialogue with Dr. Brian Reese. I'm Luis Sanchez, Journey GPS, and this time we're going to be talking about succeeding in one's career, leadership, communications, teamwork. It's kind of the big spirit of the career world. And I know we both got some experiences to share about this, Brian. So start us off with what would you say to a champion about what they in turn would say to a student about succeeding in one's career?
Well, first of all, landing your first career job is a moment to be celebrated. You're on your way to a really exciting life, and it is important to do the first year well, so that can lead to the second year, the third year.
Yeah.
And personally speaking, I've done that successfully a couple of times, and I've done it unsuccessfully once or twice, where you didn't get a successful year one or two under your belt, and it can create problems. What
I
I
know
gen
that both you and I have, we've led colleges. You've led a district of colleges. We both had some pretty good career success
Yeah.
in our time. And I want to talk about what you think went into the becoming successful. But I know we've also been bruised by some severe disappointments
Yeah,
and challenges. I think that's kind of part of the process as well, particularly if you tend to stick your neck out, as I think we
yeah,
both have.
yeah, exactly. Well, okay, so I would say the two things that I really focus on in starting a new position and trying to build something is first build relationships. All of these organizations that we join are made up of people, and they're like people everywhere. We're trying to work together to solve problems. You need to get to know each other. You need to be able to communicate with each other. You need to exercise empathy. You need to listen. All those regular attributes that are required to build a relationship are something that you need to bring to the job. On top of that are just the practical things of showing up on time, getting the work done, being available, being easy to get along with. Those are really important, especially when you're new. When you're new to a job, they're trying you out, and most of these jobs have built-in mechanisms where it's easy for them to get rid of you if you're not fitting in the first couple of years. Later on, it becomes more difficult to remove you if you come into problems. But early on, it's very, very important for you to be on the team, collaborating, communicating with everybody. So that's one area that I think of. The other area is you need to become highly engaged and curious and start developing an expertise in the main problem or problems that your group or your organization is trying to solve. So if you've joined a company, they have a mission and what they're trying to do. If you've joined a university or a community college, they have something that there's kind of a soul to every institution, and you need to understand what that is and what's driving everybody, and become an expert in that so you can offer something to the problem that they're trying to solve, or the big goal that they're trying to achieve. So in terms of starting a career and trying to get off to a good footing, those are kind of I would say those are probably the two things that I think of mostly. I haven't been asked that question a lot, so I'm curious to hear what your answer is to that. How do you approach a new career?
I think there's lots of wisdom in what you've said. I think probably two things that I would add is the value of continuous improvement, of just learning everything that you can to be the best expert you can be in whatever field that is, whether it's law or education or engineering, whatever that field that is. Um, And so I think that there's value in just constantly striving to be better at what you do and just having that sort of be your mantra. That's the plus side. The negative side is this thing called political capital that you have to be aware of. And I was not when I was younger. I don't think I'd even heard the term until much later in my career. But everybody has a certain amount of political capital. Once you get in an organization, and here's the thing about organizations, I love dogs. I don't know if you do out, among the champions that are
I do.
listening, but I love dogs. But put dogs into a pack and I stop loving them because they start to take on some really dysfunctional behavior. And people are like that sometimes too. If they're not well led, they can become really dysfunctional
Yeah.
and can cause harm. And so in most organizations, there's levels, there's pockets of dysfunctionality for a number of reasons. And you have to be aware of that dysfunctionality. And you have something called political capital. And when you first start your career, if you do a really good job, like Brian was saying, in your first or second year, you're going to accumulate a little bit of political capital. That's really helpful because that means if you make a mistake, and we all make mistakes if we're stretching ourselves, you'll get a little bit of grace and you'll do okay. You won't get fired for that mistake much of the time. But if you have zero political capital, if you just started the job and day one you make a huge mistake, you're probably not going to stick around. Even in year two, if you make a colossal mistake and you don't have enough political capital to save you, you're probably going to lose your job then too. So be conscious of what your political capital is, how people regard you, what kind of investment they have in you, and continue to build it. And you build it by the good relationships Brian was talking about, by making sound decisions, by doing good things and getting recognized. And then there comes a time sometimes when you have to spend some of your political capital because you have to take on, maybe there's something that's wrong, that's just wrong in the organization. You have to call it out and it's going to
Yeah.
cost you because people are going to be mad. Maybe there's somebody that you have to challenge. So recognize there's a price for that. Recognize you'll lose some political capital and just kind of keep tabs on what your bank account is of political capital. So that's a little bit of a dark topic, but I think it'd be remiss not to point it out to folks who are
It's
just starting off.
maybe dark, but realistic also. It's in that vein of like organizational culture, organizational politics. On that theme, let me ask you, um, most of our students in the Circle of Champions are students of color.
Yes.
And right now, we are focusing on STEM students. So we're trying to get students of color to move into STEM careers, which is dominated by whiteness, right? So there's a
Yes.
lot of people that look like me in
White
program
males in
students,
particular.
white, yeah, white men. So if you're a Latina, if you're an African American male, if you're not a white male, and you're going into these
Yes.
fields that are predominantly white men, what are some of the how do you navigate that? I know it's a gigantic topic, but what are some
It is.
thoughts that come to mind?
Well, it's a much better question than any answers I have, but I'll start with this. I think there's enormous value of hanging on to your authenticity, not trying to become somebody that you're not, somebody that doesn't have the rich background that you have. So there's a lot of value in just hanging on to your own true north, your own true voice. But you have to be aware of the landscape as you do that, because some people will be threatened by that authentic voice. If you call out a practice that you think is unethical or just wrong, you're likely to be imperiled. Your career could be imperiled at that point. So you have to sometimes take chances, but with your eyes wide open on, what's going to happen to me, what could happen to me, what's my fallback if something bad does happen to me. So on the one hand, I certainly would not advise somebody to try to become somebody they're not, to deprive the world and themselves of their own authenticity. Um, but you have to have your eyes wide open. How about you,
Yes,
Brian? What would you say?
yeah, it's well, I'm not a person of color, so I can't speak from a lived experience, but I can speak from certainly a literature informed experience. And I've mostly worked at institutions with students from backgrounds like this. And what I observe from the outside is kind of what you described is how are you going to balance this need to assimilate meaning kind of adopt the predominant culture that's inside of an institution. And
Yes.
if it's 5 generations of white men running this place, it's a culture that's bent around white men. But at the same time, how do you remain true to your history, to your family, to your culture? And how do you start to lay that inside of that institution so you can fit comfortably being yourself? And this gets into your leadership question. You can start preparing pathways for people of color who are going to come behind you and make it maybe a little bit easier. I think one of the places where Latinos and Latinas, African American men and women in particular, Native American men and women, one of the things that they can do in a leadership role, if they choose to, they're not required to, but if they choose to, is start moving the culture inside of so many STEM institutions in more of a multicultural direction.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know what that, I don't have the 10 steps of how to do that.
Yeah.
I know how to describe the problem.
Yes.
Um, I'm not so sure how to describe the solution to it other than what you said. Go into it with your eyes wide open about the bias that's there, how you're going to work inside of that bias, and how you're going to change that bias and how quickly. Um, and it's tricky. It's it's a kind of a tightrope to walk. And like I said, you don't have to be that person if you don't want to. It's not like you're required to be the African American leader who opens up this engineering firm. You don't have to. You can just go in and be an engineer if you want to. But if you want to play a leadership role, that's really a place where there's a great need that could benefit people that come behind you.
And there are lots of, examples in history of people who have moved the needle, in a very large way. So we might look at Dr. Martin Luther King. We might look at Cesar Chavez. We might look at Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela,
Yeah,
people that, Abraham Lincoln, people that, Winston Churchill, people that have had a massive influence on organizations or cultures, entire civilizations sometimes. So in Dr. King's case, and in most of these cases that I've mentioned, those folks have paid an enormous price, Dr. King by an assassin's bullet, for the work that they did. But he's proven that you can make a change. And I don't want to say lay it all at Dr. King's feet. There were a lot of other people that are responsible for the change that he helped to bring about. But nevertheless, his role was massive. I would say indispensable. And but it comes with a price, and that's really kind of the part that I want to emphasize. You can make significant change. It typically comes with a price. But if it's worth doing, then the price maybe is a little bit more bearable. It feels to me like we just scratched the surface of leadership, Brian. And I know you and I've had endless conversations about leadership. So it feels like there probably ought to be at least a couple more interviews built around leadership itself. We'll take a little bit of a hiatus from these interviews because I'll be out of the country for a while. But
yeah,
maybe when I return, we can pick up with the theme of leadership.
very good.
All right. So we're going to thank our champions for tuning in tonight. If you have any questions from any of the interviews you've listened to, please feel free to contact us, and we're happy to respond either directly or in a subsequent interview to answer your questions. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in to us. Thank you for your indispensable, to use that word a second time, role in encouraging your student. And if you can think of any other way that we can better help you fulfill that role, please let us know that. So for now, have a good evening and thank you again.